All right, I will call the meeting to order and we could salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need a motion to accept the regular meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the previous minutes, the regular meeting and the special official meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report and warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The 2021-22 budget development calendar should approve.
So move.
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess next we'll do the presentation from Bob Williams.
Okay. Everybody's received the board report for the month of November, and I can just skim through it. I don't want to read it to you word for word, but as we are progressing to finish up this project, we've had issues with the COVID-19 guidelines, and it's slowed production down, so it's delayed some items. But right now, we're in pretty good shape. The only thing that we have left is we have to put some bleachers in, some dugouts, and then it's basically everything else is tuning up around. There's some railings that have to go on some steps. But quickly going through, the lighting has been upgraded in the district, and we're probably 2 to 3 weeks from being totally complete with it, except for some punch list items. Storefronts will be coming in soon. The matting that goes in at your entryways is delivered, and that's going to be going in over the next 2 weeks. Two of them have to wait till the new entry or storefronts come in. There's some temperature control work that they're just giving you new graphics. Everything's working now. The boilers are working and everything else here. The bleachers will be coming out of your gymnasium end of this week, and the new ones are supposed to be delivered on Monday and start going in next week. So they'll be done second shift and whenever the gym's not being used or totally used. And we can assemble one set of bleachers and then move them over to the side that you use for education, for textbook education. Dugouts are coming, probably the last thing. They'll be the end of December. And in the spring, they'll have to go over and reseat everything. But otherwise, things are working pretty good. The cooler freezer is completely operational now. It's got the ramp outside. They fixed up the seal on the door on Saturday, and everything's in good shape. So I guess that's where we are. Bus garage, all the lights will be complete by the end of this week. Actually, by tomorrow, because their lift is going back Wednesday. So that's where we are. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, anybody have any questions or anything? Great job. Things are coming along nicely. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to work here on this, so I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I guess next Brenda's going to read a letter.
Yes, we received a letter today from Miranda Simmons. It says, to the board, Superintendent Connell, faculty, and those in attendance tonight. I want to first thank you for your time and willingness to hear my family's concerns tonight. Later this year, and partly had a student case of COVID-19. We send our best wishes for a speedy and full recovery to that student, their loved ones, and all in the larger Copenhagen family who have been affected by this virus. This process has been a difficult one. My child was exposed on or around November 6, 2020. Through a series from the school, we were made aware that there was a positive case in the school system, but we're not a child had been exposed. In fact, we received an email, a letter email from Superintendent Connell that explicitly stated that anyone who had been exposed had been contacted. Quote, if you were not contacted, you will not be required to quarantine. End quote. We took this letter at its word and carried on with our COVID-adjusted life. This included hockey practice for our son, a trip to the grocery store, a safe visit with grandparents, and daily community interaction. While complying with safety guidelines, our child and members of our household were likely in contact with dozens of people during this time. It wasn't until we received a telephone call from a New York State contact tracer days later that we to the exposure. The contact tracer informed us of the date of exposure and stated that our child was required to quarantine for 14 days and recommended that we have him tested as soon as possible. You can imagine the immense frustration we experienced after revisiting Mr. Connell's November 11th letter. To that end, I contacted Jefferson County Public Health. We are Jefferson County residents. I was informed that the school had not directly contacted Jefferson County. When I asked if this was a normal process, I was told very frankly that no, school districts are required to report to the counties they serve, not exclusively to the county they reside. The reason? Lag time and contact tracing from agency to agency. This was later collaborated by Lewis County Public Health in the New York Center for School Health. Clearly, there is a problem in how this particular situation was handled and communicated. However, placing blame isn't our intention. We can, and frankly, we must do better moving forward. So tonight I pose the following questions to the board. Number one, when there is another positive case, who was responsible for contacting Lewis County? Who was responsible for contacting Jefferson? Number two, how quickly does this take place? Number three, how will the district work with the public health to ensure a plan for accurate and timely information flow? Number four, ultimately, who is responsible for this plan? How will it be available and accessible to families? When? Number five, who and how is this district intending to communicate future potential exposures to families? By email, by phone, how quickly? Number six, lastly, how can we as parents be most helpful in this process? I appreciate you taking the time to consider my comments tonight. I look forward to your written response. Miranda Simmons.
And I will follow up. I will follow up with a written response to that.
Any questions or comments, I guess, from that at this point? Okay, very good. From there, I guess we'll move on to administrator reports. Mrs. O'Shaughnessy.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
So I will follow along and do the same thing that I always do, touching on a few highlights from my report, and then open for anything else that you would like me to address. One of the big pieces of news that came out in the last couple of weeks is the fact that the January Regents exams are officially canceled. I'm sure you've already heard that. The impact that has on our students isn't as great as one might imagine. Any student who wanted to retake a Regents for a higher grade who'd already passed, they will not be retaking that Regents, of course, but also they will not be eligible for the exemption. They will stay with the score they have. For those students who would normally take the English Regents in the middle of their junior year, they obviously aren't going to be able to do that, but neither are they eligible for the exemption because their full year course of study is not yet completed. So those students will be required to take their Regents at the end of the year in June, provided that those Regents examinations don't get canceled. So the only students that are impacted by this are those who had previously not passed the Regents or who are completing a course of study that culminates in a Regents in January. That affects one student, and we are working with that one student presently. So that was kind of something that looked like it might have a huge impact on our students, but it wasn't as severe as what we had expected. Administratively, we also have several students who are interested in earning the seal of biliteracy this year, which is still something that they can do. And there is a virtual process in place for that in May in the event that we have to use it. All the necessary notifications have been sent to the state. Teachers have been briefed with regard to the fact that they may be requested to be mentors. So we're moving ahead with that and are pretty excited about the aspect of having more than one to earn that seal of biliteracy. Moving along to board goal number 1, to reduce bias. If you get a chance at some point in the next couple of weeks to see the poster in the front hall, I've included a picture there. Our Sources of Strength Club is conducting a fall campaign called We Belong. And their hope is that not only hanging this sign, but also visiting classrooms to talk about it, to hopefully have students engage in classroom activities, will help students embrace the diversity that they have amongst the student body, as opposed to using it as a means of finding difference. I think these past couple of months have been really difficult. You wouldn't think that an election that students can't even vote in would affect them as deeply as this election has affected them. And there have been very how should I say, educative process interfering conversations and just behaviors that have had to be addressed over the past couple of months. So we're hoping that this will kind of bring unity back into our student body and hope back to where we were last November when we really took steps to try to address this. Technology board goal. Mr. Williams, Tony, secured an $18,500 grant from Pratt & Northam, and he, in part, is purchasing Chromebooks for our students, and we did receive one order of those Chromebooks. They have arrived. He's also piloting some potential replacements for our smart boards, which are going to age out eventually, and he's found some really good possibilities. So there is one sitting in the library right now that they're taking a look at. Another plea from the technology department: if you are aware of any residents in our district who have not yet completed the internet survey that Lewis County is conducting, with regard to internet access. Please urge folks to finish that and to submit that. There is a link that we shared out. If you need that again, just let us know and we can share that with you. The county is working with various other agencies to decrease the number of people who have limited internet access. So hopefully that, completing that survey will get us somewhere. Those are things that I wanted to highlight from my report. If there's anything that you would like me to address that I didn't talk about, I'm happy to do so.
Shaughnessy.
On that survey you're just talking about, was that both counties or? just Lewis?
For us, for the survey that was sent out via Parent Square, that one was for county. I don't know. Do you know if there's one for Jefferson County as well, Scott?
Do not know.
I don't know. Not that we're aware of. Okay, but that doesn't mean that one doesn't exist.
All right, just checking.
Mm-hmm.
There should be at some point, I think, that was a development authority of the North Country process. So all the counties, Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence, were included in that. So I'm not sure how Jefferson County is going about it, but Lewis County's already got their survey out. So, any other questions? Okay, Mrs. Ratliff, you're up.
Before I definitely mention that I'm going to be jumping off the meeting for a parent conference, and then when I get done, I'll come back. So when I disappear, I'll be back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ratliff.
All right. Most everything on my report was pretty cut and dried, but I do want to elaborate on kind of our day-to-day life here, because as we adapt to the new COVID way of coming to school and everything, that seems to be working out just fine. But there have been some other unintended and unexpected consequences, not in a bad way, but consequences that have come about. And it's that our staff has developed a sense of urgency when it comes to instruction and when it comes to student achievement. And it's interesting because where at one point it might have been, oh, it's only 5 weeks. Let's give them a while and see how they do. Instead, it's turned into, it's already been 5 weeks and they're not progressing the way we want. So there's more of a sense of urgency to get students the help they need. Lots of child study team referrals. And when we have those meetings, it's like all hands on deck. And I think I put that in my board report. It's the special ed teachers saying, okay, well, let me see if I can put them in with this group for a short time and see if we can't just, jumpstart their achievement and get them going. And it's just been really great to see. And it's one thing that I hope we hold on to when things do get back to our old normal. But it's really heartwarming to see so many people so dedicated to the achievement for these kids. And I just wanted to make sure that you heard that too, because it's pretty great stuff. So that's what I had. And if there's anything else on my report that you'd like me to elaborate on, I'm happy to.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Ratliff? Is part of the reason for that the thought that we may at some point have to go virtual?
Oh, absolutely.
They want to get all they can get out of.
Absolutely the reason why. It's like we have to get all these things into place before we have to go remote. They're a little terrified of that, the idea of going remote.
Well, I'm sure it's a lot more convenient, fun, and effective to have the kids there in person. So
more than one teacher had said they had PTSD from this. So I'm going remote. I don't think they're kidding.
Oh no, I would think it could be rather traumatic. Yep. Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Raliff. Superintendent's report, Mr. Connell.
So I'll just jump on what Pam said quickly, that I in all the years that I have been here, and I don't understand why this is other than what we just talked about, but the morale in our school seems to be much greater than it's ever been. And it's not perfect. You know, we have people that get down and, you know, things like that. But for the most part, it's just amazing how everyone has come together to make this work. I think there's some pride in the fact that being here 5 days with all of our kids is important. And they really have come together, and it's, yeah, it might be more noticeable in the elementary, but it's really happening everywhere. And it's pretty neat to watch, because you'd expect at this point is when morale would be at its lowest, because everybody's, you know, our teachers and our staff are also experiencing life outside of school in COVID-19, yet they're not bringing that to school. They're coming to school ultra focused on doing their job. And there's been some questions about if we have to go remote, you know, where I sit in my superintendent's meetings and teachers want to teach remotely from home. Our teachers are begging to be able to teach here. You know, they've asked me if we go remote, we can still come and teach here, right? Because in the spring we couldn't. You know, that was, nobody really understood the virus as well as we do now. So we kept everybody out of the building, thinking that coming in would, you know, cause more problems, because we didn't know that we weren't coming back. Every 2 weeks it changed. So, you know, asking if we can still teach in our building when we're here. So it's been pretty neat, and it's pretty exciting, and very proud of everybody that works for Copenhagen Central School right now, because they're really going above and beyond. So anyway, for my report, everybody's back today from the 7th grade quarantine. We still do have 2 teacher aides and 1 student quarantined from a different incident. Fortunately, we're quarantined before, so there was no contact tracing from that one, which made it nice. That's the hard part, is when, as we found out, when our teachers had to go home and we couldn't teach our 8th and 6th graders either. So that was a good thing. Continue to meet with public health every day, pretty much. They're updating us on the numbers, letting us know what they see happening with the spread. There's 5 new cases yesterday. There were 7 today in Lewis County. They seem to be coming from hunting camps, work sites, and from the nursing home, are kind of the 3 places. Not, you know, at all. They've applauded us many times about what we're doing in schools. You know, there's still no spread in school. All of our cases have come from someone infecting a child that comes to school. So no spread in school yet. You know, needless to say, they're still very concerned about the numbers in Lewis County, but also very understanding that schools are the best place for kids. So we're going to do all we can to keep our kids here. One step we're making, they have you probably all heard the red, orange, and yellow zones. Technically, we're a red zone right now by our numbers. Today we're under 8% of the infection rate. So we're definitely well into the red zone, but because of the low population and the fact that, you know, the numbers are down, we don't have big numbers compared to anywhere. It's just our percentage is high because of our low population rate. So we're still going along, but we are putting things in place for if we do get put into a zone. One of those is, the hospital is doing this as we speak, is preparing us to be able to be a testing site. And that requires us to kind of piggyback either with the hospital or with public health off their ability to do that. And if we were to go into that zone, what we have to do is test 20% of our population within a 2-week period. So for us, that's about 11 kids a day. That, you know, when this gets rolling, we will be sending a letter out to families. You know, they have to give permission for their child to be tested. And what will happen is, after that 2-week period, if our infection rate in the school is lower than the county's infection rate, it certainly will be. You know, we've had 3 kids in 5 total people, but that's going to be well below 8%. So what that allows us to do is to stay in school and not have to test anymore. So they're going to train our people to test. For us, it'll just be our nurse. I mean, she'll certainly be able to test 11 kids a day for 2 weeks. So she'll test everyone, and hopefully that number will come back. And again, that's only if we get put in that zone. And I think that's from listening to the governor talk, he is well aware that schools are the safest place right now. Does not want to have to shut them down, but wants to make sure that not spreading within school. And if that number is lower than the counties, then that's a good indication that that's not happening. Winter sports, still waiting for the governor to say whether we can compete or not. He did move the start date to January 4th. So nothing will be starting until January 4th. And then at some point he will let us know if we can compete. And parent-teacher conferences, as Nadine just shared, are going on right now, and they'll continue tomorrow in the afternoon. And also, as I mentioned, I will be responding to that letter. There are some inaccuracies in the third paragraph that I will address. And that's all I have, if anybody has any questions.
Questions for Mr. Connell? Okay. We'll move on to new business. Superintendent recommends the approval of the appointment of Tammy Muncy, junior varsity basketball coach.
So move. Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Denise Cheel, substitute bus driver.
So move.
Second.
Questions?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bus aid.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Madison Shaw.
So move.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Ashley Elias, temporary part-time lunch aide.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Terry Closter, full-time 12-month night cleaner.
So move. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adjust substitute pay salaries to the minimum wage rate schedule.
Second.
Any questions on that?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the first and only reading of the revised substitute teacher compensation policy.
So move. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the first and only reading of the Board of Education policy for community relations.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the first and only reading of the interim Board of Education policy on salary and benefits.
So move.
Sponsored awards during unexpected or extraordinary circumstances, which we're in. Any discussion? those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the following substitutes: Brandon Scott, Nancy Snyder.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendations for the Committee on Special Ed and Preschool Special Ed.
So move. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items. Mr. Connell.
I just want to, open this up and hopefully, I think we're all on the same page, but as we move through this and it's going to be, they're expecting spikes after the holidays, and we could potentially have a situation like we had in middle school. We could have it with high school. We could have it with elementary. And I guess I just want to know, are we still in favor of staying in with whatever kids we're able to stay in with? It's going to be a discussion in Lewis County and Jefferson County as well. There's been talk now of, closing after Thanksgiving until through the holidays, and then even up until the 19th of January for a 2-week gap after the holidays to let travel and all settle down. And I just think it's in the best interest of our kids to be in school. It's the safest place for them. And if we have to send middle school home or high school home, because of contact tracing and the inability to teach them in school and they have to be remote, I am in favor of doing that, but keeping our elementary here. It will be very easy to keep our elementary because they are completely cohorted with their teacher. So if there is a positive case in the elementary, the only people that will be going home and quarantining would be the teacher of that classroom and the students in that classroom and potentially their PE teacher. That's the only place they actually leave their classroom to go to. So any questions, any concerns, anything that doesn't sound good about that, I'd love to listen and have discussion about it.
Science says staying in school is the best, especially for the elementary kids.
Very true. And we found that out in the spring. Our middle and high school kids did, as best as can be expected remotely, especially since it was their first time. I think we'll do it better this time if we have to, but elementary just struggles. It's just hard. And I think it's going to be even more difficult. In the spring, we had, parents furloughed. We had people working from home. We don't have that as much now. So, it's babysitters, it's grandparents, it's siblings, and they need help learning. They need help getting on their devices. They need explanations, and it's hard to do that remotely. Okay, that's all I have. Keep crossing our fingers that, we can stay safe here. And I've encouraged, our families to, do everything they can do to be responsible. That's where it comes from. It comes from the outside. And, I know our families want our kids to be here. So if they have to make a sacrifice and not do some of the things they were doing, I've encouraged everybody that I talk to do that. It doesn't mean you have to live in your house, but just think about large gatherings and not being part of that. Think about staying with your own family when you do things and trying to stay as safe as you can so your kids are safe and therefore being able to stay in school.
Very good. Anybody have anything else that we need to discuss tonight? Okay. As you said, Mr. Connell, you'll respond to the letter.
I will.
And just for the record, so everyone knows that, the school and administration and staff and board are interested in doing all we can to make sure we can keep the school open. And so, working with health departments is obviously what we have to do and what we have been doing and will continue to do. So, anything that we can do at this point to make sure the kids can continue to come to school every day. So, any other comments? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good night.
you. Let us know when we're off here, so.